Hi, I'm Melissa.
And I'm Jesse.
Welcome to the Reimagine Success podcast. We're a husband and wife team who want to make a difference and change the way we all view success.
We've had the privilege of interviewing so many amazing, talented, and successful guests. Each one of them experienced success in their own way.
We want to change how society views success by inspiring you to live your best life and celebrate your successes no matter what that looks like, big and small.
Success looks so different for everyone, and we want you to reimagine your success. Welcome to Season 2 of
Reimagine Success. Welcome back to Season 2 of Reimagine Success.
Hey, everybody. Hope your week has been unbelievably successful.
Wow, we have had such a hectic week. So we have the kids for a month. I know we mentioned that last time, but we have the kids for an entire month. And let me tell you, it has been one of those weeks.
Yeah, it's like non-stop. And we love them. We do.
We love them.
They're the
so
best.
much.
They're the joy of my heart.
And we love spending time with them.
Yeah, but sometimes it's just exhausting.
Yeah. And speaking of that, we have some fabulous guests today who is going to agree with us every single word that we just said.
Dude, I have my camera right now because today I'm testing them out to sleeping together because the little one grew out of the crib, and I'm just like still parenting while I'm talking to you guys.
See, that's how
never off.
Right. And that's how it goes. That's why I'm so excited to dive into this, because this has been our challenging week for us, for sure.
We've got some amazing moms on the podcast.
Yes.
It's Sunny D and Captain J, hosts of Pot Smoking Moms podcast. Pot Smoking Moms has built an international audience for a supportive, informative, and sometimes hilarious take on better parenting through THC. PSM takes an honest and humorous look at parenting with special emphasis on self-care and stress management, all through the lens of responsible cannabis use. Through a mix of reporting on current cannabis news and interviewing industry professionals that include other parents, this podcast helps destigmatize the plant in a fun yet educational way. Welcome to the Pot Smoking Moms, Captain J and Sunny D.
Welcome.
Hey
Thanks
guys,
for
thank
having
you
us.
so much.
We're not used to being on other podcasts, so
Not at all.
I get it. You know, we did that we hosted our own podcast, and then we went on to someone else's podcast, and we're like, whoa, we should be asking you the questions.
Yeah, it was real weird.
It feels weird, right?
Yeah.
It's like somebody's driving your car and you're in the back seat. Like, what are we doing?
Like, why aren't we in control right now?
Wait, you should be doing this right now. If this podcast was our podcast, we'd be doing it so much better.
That's great. Well, I love it. And I love what you guys are doing, what you're doing as far as getting the stigma out of there. And, you know, moms have such a huge responsibility every single day, just like Sunny D right now. You are actually parenting as you're doing the podcast. So there's a lot, and I'm ready to dive right into it.
Yeah. So why don't you guys just start by telling us your story, a little bit of background about how you got started and what you're doing today.
So we've been friends for a while now, and we've been smoking cannabis for quite some time, recreationally as friends. We kind of became parents around the same time, and
that's cool. That's cool that you guys went through the same experience together.
Yeah, we're really lucky because we actually have like a group of friends that we've all kind of, grown up together, and have we all have kids, and we all smoke weed. So I never felt like we've talked to other moms, and they're like, oh, I don't tell anybody, or I don't have any friends to smoke with. And we feel like, wow, that's rough. Cause we're
sad.
Like, so we're, what is it called? We're like spoiled.
Yeah. It's like you've got this great community.
Yeah, we're lucky enough that our friendships that we had in our mid to late 20s, when we were, we would get together, party, smoke, continued when we became parents, so that, now we're parenting and we may smoke a little when the kids are distracted. And it's it's a whole different vibe. It's not the same smoking we did in our 20s.
Right.
But so we're lucky enough to have that, but we found a huge community of moms online that don't have that. They don't have other moms, other friends that they can do that with. And we've kind of built our own little community with them.
That's really cool. And, when you think about it, a lot, what you said earlier, going back to it, a lot of moms, they're like, oh, I do this, but I don't tell anyone about it. Like if you don't talk about it and you don't tell anyone about it, then you won't have that community. So I think it's great that, you actually speak up and talk about it.
And then there's this like weird, almost guilt associated with it because you're hiding it and you think it's taboo, when honestly, most of the people that I experience out in the world smoke pot. Like almost everybody I run into or meet for the first time, it's, once we get on the subject, it's like, yeah, of course, smoke pot. Like it's no big deal. And it's one of those things like so many people do, but so many people are afraid to come out and
talk about
say it.
Right. It is kind of hush hush, although I think the older we get, the more we're like, we need to keep it real because we don't have time to I don't have time to pretend things.
Yeah.
Right.
So we lead a lot. We lead with like, hey, we have a podcast. And everyone's either it's like, oh, okay, and then never hear from them again, or it's like, oh, cool. And then, we talk about all kinds of stuff.
Well, actually, that's good because then you know your people. You're like, oh, you can be part of my community.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
You can be my friend.
It's actually similar for me with my music. So I guess I've said it on this podcast before, but I do smoke pot regularly. And so there it is. It's out in the world. For a long time, I couldn't say
Feels
that out
good
loud.
to come out of the green closet.
It does. Well, I couldn't say that out loud because I was a school teacher for a lot of years.
Oh,
and so I had to be very, on the lowdown with anything that I did. I couldn't even drink in public in the town that I lived in.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So for me to come on air and say that I am a pot smoking individual, it's
You're pot smoking dad.
Yeah, I'm a pot smoking dad for sure.
There needs to be a podcast about pot smoking.
We love, we're waiting for it. We love pot smoking dads. Our husbands are pot smoking dads.
Well, there you go.
Get them to start when it be a hit.
We're trying. We're trying to have them keep going, keep the brand going.
Yeah. But recently I've actually got to do some pot themed events. So on 420, I did a Stoners Fest, which was really cool. And then I've been doing these urban colors. So it's like the kind of like the drink sipping paints, but it's smoking paint.
Smoking paint.
And it's really cool to be in those communities where people are all kind of open to it, and it's just a totally different vibe than playing at a bar where people are drinking and like everybody, like fights are going on. And within these, it's like everybody's loving on each other, having a good time. Everybody's relaxed,
having good conversation.
Exactly.
Right. The conversation is really deep most of the time. You're like, oh, whoa, where are we going with this conversation? All right.
Starts getting all existential.
It's like, what's the meaning of life? Oh, we're going there.
Or like, what kind of toppings do you like on your pizza?
Like, oh, that's a really good question. Thanks for asking. But it's really sad. Most of the time, people, as they go along in life, it's like, hey, how are you? Good. How are you? Good. That's the end of the conversation. I feel like people who are in touch with themselves and their life and their community, they're like, hey, how are you? Great. I just went to the store today and I got like a really great deal on Skittles. It was awesome. I don't know. It just popped in my head, but it's like, but you learn about that person. So that now it's more than just good, right? That, dang, first off, I can be friends with this person because they like Skittles. Second off, oh yeah, good deals, all great things.
You got to have those communities. You got to have people that you can open up to and be yourself and be honest and be transparent. And that with pot, unfortunately, is still taboo for a lot of people.
It's still heavily criticized, although there's a big majority of the population wants to legalize it. For sure. Like there's an overwhelming
Georgia,
but at the same time,
legalized.
Well, not quite.
Where are you guys at?
Well, we're in Georgia.
So just had some. I think you guys voted on.
We didn't legalize it, but
you voted on a question on: are you interested on legalizing it?
Yeah, it was voting on whether or not you should vote for it. It was it was weird. It was like
would you like to see this on the ballot?
Yes.
But it was a resounding yes. 80-20.
Yeah,
it was so
like,
great.
We actually reported that on our podcast.
Nice. Well, it's getting there, and that's what we need to do. We need to be like, hey, yes, like this needs to be not just statewide. This needs to be just nationwide. Just let it
immediately.
Let it go.
Yeah, federal legalization needs to happen already. It just feels like it's never going to happen because the two sides are fighting all the time and they never want to agree on anything, even when they know it's a resounding yes nationwide. Nothing gets passed in the Senate. It keeps getting passed in the House and nothing gets passed in the Senate. And so we're just like we're treading in the same spot, you know?
Yeah.
But we grew up in a DARE generation, and a lot of people, there's still a huge stigma around it. People can still not get a job for it. Like if you're trying to get a job and you have to take a drug test, many companies still drug test for that, even if the state is medicinal.
Yeah.
You just talked about being a teacher. We talked about a story about a teacher in the state of Florida who had an accident at school and ended up getting drug tested, and it came out on the test. He had his medical marijuana card and he was using it for PTSD, and then he got fired just like that.
Dang.
So
that sucks.
That's why people are so in the closet still. So until that federal legalization comes, like you said, I don't think people are going to be 100% unless they're living in a fully legal state.
But even then, they're going to leave it up to the states to decide how. I mean, I don't know that it's definite that way, but I'm sure the way that it's going already, there's states that already have, they already have things in place or whatever for whatever program they're using.
Yeah.
So they're going to leave it up to the states. But even then, some states we reported on.
Let me tell you. Those states are going to lose a lot of people.
Right.
All the states really around them are going to be like, give me that money.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody's
How
going to
much
move.
money are they losing out on?
That's
it's
kind of
so
dumb.
much. And yet, here's the thing that kills me is that they're going to illegalize weed. That is something that calms people down, helps people. It can be used medicinally.
Yeah.
And you're going to like fire people over that. But I could go home after a hard day at work and kick back a 6-pack of something and nobody's going to bat an eye at that. You know, it's so stupid when, if like I'm doing that, I'm likely going to make bad choices. It's going to affect the way I act and who I become. It changes everything about a person versus weed that just makes you kind of the best version of yourself. Just maybe a little sleepier.
Depends on the strain
right?
and how much you consume.
Right.
Or snackier.
Yes, definitely snackier.
Awesome.
So let's dive into your history a little bit. So what was it that made you first start smoking? Were you just experimenting as young people, or so how'd that journey start for you?
I the first time I smoked, I was way too young, and it was people around me like, hey, let's try this. I was 14. But it wasn't like regular use. It's not like I was 14 years old getting high every day. It was just like, that one time and then another one more time, and that's it. I didn't start regularly consuming cannabis until I was at least a senior in high school. So I was at least 17, 18. And then that was all recreational, just, fun after school or skipping class or whatever on the weekend. But then as I grew up and as I became an adult, I noticed how it helped me in so many other ways. And people think, when you're smoking, you're just getting stupid high and you're going to sit on the couch and eat a bunch of munchies or whatever. Yeah. I was finding that it was actually helping me function better, think more clearly, get things done throughout the day. Give me the motivation to go out and get up and go out, because I have anxiety and social anxiety and being out, and cannabis would really help me with those things. So that's where, when I grew older, it turned more into a medicinal use. Of course, every once in a while you indulge at a party or when you get together, but my daily use is more like, not mental health, but like, it's self-care.
Yeah, like calming
self-care,
self-care.
Yeah.
And especially if you're a mom, you need something throughout the day. Just, okay, let me calm down for a second, relax, chill out, take a couple of breaths, take a couple of puffs. We're good.
Especially being a mom, but even just living in this world that we live in, I think everybody could use.
Yes. For anti, it's good for stress, and we trust. We got a lot of stress. I started the same, but I was a late bloomer. I didn't really start smoking until I was in college. And my husband, boyfriend at the time, was the one who kind of officially introduced me to it. And then, we would smoke like on weekends. And then, I started using it on a regular basis, but like not as much. We would, back when we were younger, we would smoke like a blunt. We would like roll a blunt. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with smoking a blunt, but like my regular daily is not that much. It's smaller doses throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when we started podcasting about it, oh my God, there's so much to learn about it. So people our age kind of like are stuck. You don't really know. You don't know until you know. Like you really don't know what is out there, and there's a whole lot out there. So it could be a little bit scary. But oh my God, but how amazing is all the different kinds of products that are available to us now?
Right.
Yeah.
Stuff that we didn't have back in the day.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's deodorant, there's shampoo, there's even more stuff than just smoking it.
Topicals and stuff like that. But even in smoking and consuming it, there's so many different methods now. You have wax where people are like doing dabs and stuff like that, which is a little too much for us. We prefer to stick to flower, but having a little bit in the right setting and the right measurement and all that, it's okay every once in a while. It's just a little too much THC for me.
It just sends you to the moon.
Too much THC for me. I like the whole plant, everything that comes with the whole plant, all the terpenes and stuff. So, and then you have edibles, and then you have topicals, like you said. So it's like somebody coming new into the cannabis space that maybe never consumed cannabis before, seeing all these options, they're going to be like, whoa, it's a lot. It was a lot for us, and we were cannabis consumers.
Yeah,
we're like, what is going on?
Yeah, when we got on Instagram and we saw these people doing crazy dabs, we were like, what? This is all everybody's doing this here? It's cool. So it was pretty interesting when we first started doing it.
Man, I've seen someone that was in a car, or what was it, a car or a van, and they literally smoked out the entire van and then just came out. And came out. I was like,
some things are some things are
that's things I did in high school.
I've seen people wear like gas masks and then connect that to
nuts.
like it's just insane.
It's excessive.
I couldn't imagine even getting that high. Like
that culture's out there too, where it's like they do excessive. Because I mean, look, everybody in America, it's like they do it for the gram. So of course you see some crazy dabs where it's like the concentrate, it's like a string, and they just smoke.
My gosh.
And it's just like
I would die.
Right?
I would. You wouldn't see me.
But
like years. Like, where'd she go?
The problem is that those people give pot smoking such an irresponsible and like party vibe, and it misses the whole demographic like us that are doing it to be better people, to be the best version of ourselves, and to like really help ourselves. I mean, I started smoking regularly in a time when I was really depressed, and I had gone to the doctor. They put me on Zoloft, and I took it for 2 days, and I just like, I feel like a zombie. I don't feel like myself. And so I stopped that immediately, flushed those down the toilet because I didn't want anybody to take that crap. And I started smoking weed regularly, and instantly, like, it fixed me. Like it helped my depression and my anxiety so very much that like I can't ever like replace that in my life,
That's so good to hear. But we want it to be available enough to where you can start picking strains for certain ailments, because what I was gonna get into is I like a terpene called limonene, and it's like one of my favorites, and it turns out that's like helps you with focus, which is something that I've had trouble with, and now with kids, I mean, forget it. Like that's what's focus,
right?
But somebody was like, oh, you like, because I was telling them the kind of strains that I'm into, and she's like, oh, you like to get into, to use it for focus. And I was like, well, I didn't know that was one of the benefits, but it would make a lot of sense.
It's for your ADHD brain.
Right. And so when you get to looking up certain strains and what's available, it's great to have all of these available, because you can, somebody might have an issue with the strain,
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, you know, in those stories where people are like, oh, I tried it and it wasn't for me.
Yeah.
All the stoners are always like, oh, it's because you didn't find the right strain. Like, which is kind of true
It's kinda
because
It
true.
is true.
It
you
is very
know,
true.
It's very true. It's
Yeah.
like food. I would go back to food. You have to try all different kinds of food so you know, understand and know what you like. It's the same thing with this. If you think of it like that.
Yeah, I used to hate Brussels sprouts, but the way she cooks them, I love them.
like Daniel Tiger, you gotta try new foods because it might taste good.
If you're somebody that gets severe anxiety consuming cannabis, you should be sticking to low THC. You
Mhm.
don't want high That's why it's so important that it's legal and we know what we're consuming and buying, because when you buy from your plug, the neighbor, your friend of a friend,
Mhm.
you don't know
Yep.
for sure what you're getting. You don't have the analysis or the testing on that.
I
You
mean,
don't know what the
even though
percentages
I gotta
are.
say, some of these plugs,
Yeah, they
because
got good shit usually. There's good stuff. Excuse me, I don't know if we could curse on here.
You're fine.
No,
you're
you're
fine. This
fine.
can be an explicit episode
I don't think
anyway.
they can show you. I don't think they can show you.
Yeah,
a
that's right.
COA.
Automatically with cannabis.
Yep.
So now you guys are making a huge change with cannabis usage. So what kind of things are you doing? You know, of course the podcast, but besides the podcast, is there anything that you're doing to create change, not only with moms, but everyone in the world?
Well, I mean, we recently started doing events,
Mhm.
which is really a great way to kind of like not only connect with your audience, but also like have them connect with each other. You know, it's always really fun to like introduce your friends to other friends and then you see them become friends. And that's
Mhm.
kind of what we constantly do. There's so many people who kind of have met through us.
Yeah.
But we are trying to find ways to incorporate charities.
Mhm.
We mentioned First Prisoner Project a lot. We have raised
Last
money for
Prisoner
them.
Project,
I mean, I'm sorry, Last Prisoner Project. We have raised money for them in the past.
Mhm.
You know, we were trying to talk about the petitions that really are the bills that we want, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of dispensaries want to back bills that put a limit on the kind of, you know, access that people have. I mean, like putting a limit on the kind of how many trees you can grow.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So dispensaries kind of are gonna try to like,
Have a corner on the market.
yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, they're gonna try to pass the bill that kind of still controls it, you know. Like
Yep.
we want to free the plant. We don't want to when we go to the store, nobody's keeping tabs on how many 6-packs and how many handles
Right?
of rum and vodka people are taking. Why do we need to keep tabs on how much weed we're buying or how much weed we're growing?
Right.
Right.
How do they know you're not getting it for like a party of people that are coming to your house? Like you're not going to consume all that.
Yeah. Or our
For all
weed
they know.
tray or our weed cart, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I have a friend and we have friends in Canada who like everybody grows and gets together and then they share their grows with each other. They share their
That's so
buds with each
awesome.
That's
other.
cool.
So we were talking in California, they're trying to do like a farmer's market.
They're trying to
I
allow
just
small
saw that.
growers, yeah, to
That's
sell
so
in
cool.
farmers markets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
markets.
dream.
Yeah.
That's
That's
cool.
the future. It
Yeah.
just that's where we need to be, because until 1937, this wasn't an illegal plant. You know, like this has been in humans have been using this for thousands of
medicine.
years
Yeah.
as medicine medicinally. And then all of a sudden, you know, it has been only within the last less than 100 years has it really been demonized and just changed, and reefer madness and all that.
Well,
Mhm.
let's talk about that because a lot of our listeners don't even know, like they just assume that it's always been this criminalized thing and
Yeah.
and that it's bad because Dare told us it's bad. This is your brain. This is your brain on
Right.
drugs.
Yeah.
You know, and there's the
Any
egg.
questions?
Yeah. Like and there was all this propaganda that came out.
Mhm.
So can you give our listeners a little bit of history on how all that went that way?
Well, it basically was fear mongering. It was they were villainizing marijuana because Mexican immigrants used it,
Right.
Yeah.
and they called it marijuana, like marijuana.
Mhm.
And since the Americans didn't never heard that term, they villainized that, thinking, not realizing this is the same thing that I have on my medicine cabinet in some of my medicines.
Yeah.
And they were really using that to demonize a group of people that they didn't want to be
Mhm.
here.
Mm.
and then they further weaponize it as a way to arrest them and send them back, or even arresting people of color, saying that they're gonna they villainize it, saying that they're gonna become very violent if they smoke it. It was basically a tool to control
communities of color and
communities of color and
Yep.
keep them out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep people afraid of them.
And then Richard Nixon came along and just his scientists were telling him how many good things about it.
Yep.
And he's like,
Yep.
yeah, no, we're gonna make it illegal.
You're trying to do his voice. Did you guys hear? That was awesome.
And then that goes back to other reasons. You know, big pharma has their reasons
Yeah.
why they
Yeah.
don't want it to be legal. They want us
Oh,
addicted
yeah.
to all these other drugs and needing all these other medicines. A medicine that gives me this side effect that's going to make me have to take another medicine for that side effect.
Mhm.
And like all of a sudden you're taking 5 or 6 drugs that could probably, that in most cases, and so many people we've spoken to, where cannabis has allowed them to get rid of like 5 or 6 prescriptions.
Yeah,
that they were
it's
taking.
incredible. We've talked to so many people who have they've really gotten rid of all their prescriptions through cannabis, or even like we've talked to people who have gotten out of serious drug problems and
Yeah.
It's
and
an
cannabis
exit
helped
drug.
them.
It is
Yeah.
totally an exit drug, not a gateway drug.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
and
so
that's-
funny.
That's what they always say. Like, that's the gateway drug to do everything else.
Yep.
Well, I'm sorry. I don't do anything else. And I don't want to do anything else,
Yeah.
even though I smoke marijuana.
Yeah, it's like cocaine is like so far away from my mind when I'm smoking
Yeah,
pot.
I
like,
used to work in the restaurant industry, and cocaine is huge in the
Yeah.
restaurant
So
industry.
big.
And
Yeah.
people would offer it to me all the time, and I was just like, nah, I'm good with my fucking joint and shit. Like I wasn't interested.
We've heard so many stories of people getting out of severe opioid abuse
Mhm.
by
Yeah.
using cannabis, alcoholism, getting out of alcoholism by using cannabis, and just pills, all the different types of oxy, all those
Mhm.
things.
Mhm.
So I don't,
And it's
just the future.
non-addictive. You know, like granted, okay, so I'll be completely transparent. When I don't smoke, sometimes I have trouble sleeping, but that's because I have trouble turning my mind off.
Mhm.
And that's one of the main reasons I smoke. As a
Right.
musician, my mind doesn't stop. It just
Yeah.
keeps composing and composing music or analyzing and tearing apart songs. If I hear any kind of jingle, it doesn't matter what it is, before I go to bed, it's done.
It could be the air vent, could be making
Yeah.
a jingle.
Our-
and he's
our
like,
air vents, when we first moved into this house, we had like 3 different vents that were making an overtone, and it was making
Which is just like a month ago, right?
a month
yeah.
ago.
So
yeah,
it's
so you're learning all the sounds that your new house makes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was making these
He made a song.
Yeah, it was making these 3 tones, and I ended up writing a song based off of those tones because that's just how my brain works. And when I smoke, I can relax and
Mhm.
stop thinking that much. Like I can turn that part of my brain off and go into a different part of my brain where I'm more introspective, and like it helps me meditate
Mhm.
and get deeper within myself and to learn about myself and to
Yeah. There's a
improve.
spirituality that
Yes.
Oh, so
also
much.
comes
Yeah.
from the earth.
Yes.
Mm.
Oh yeah, for sure. I want to go back to what you were saying earlier, Sunny D. Like, so charities. I know you've worked with a couple of charities, but
Mass
I bet
Prisoner
you,
Project.
yeah, I bet you it overall is really hard. You know, it's not like you can go to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta or like a children's
No,
hospital.
right.
or-
I mean, ultimately, like, what are we like? Okay, what are we trying to do? Ultimately, we want to free all the prisoners who have been locked up
Mhm.
for
Mhm.
nonviolent cannabis offenses.
Yeah.
Because if there's people making money, making profits off of weed, because trust me, it's bank. Like we want to
Yeah.
even see the profits coming in through Florida, and it's just medically legal. It's like
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
So it's like if all these people, all these white, old, rich white dudes are making all this money, like we need to start getting people free and freeing up our resources too,
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
these people, what are they doing locked up in the system? It's like, it's
And
pointless.
it's taking people's lives away
Yeah.
over something
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
ridiculous.
Over something that
Absolutely.
other people are now doing legally and making
Right.
money
Yeah.
off
Money
of.
off it.
Right.
It's-
Right.
It's the biggest hypocrisy ever,
100%.
ever. And it's mostly, like you said, people of color. And
Mhm.
it's when we did the 420 event, we were on a panel, and it was myself, Melissa, one of our friends, and we were all white people. And then it was two people of color. And the two people of color talked about how they had been arrested for very minimal possession charges.
Mhm.
And who hadn't been arrested? All three of the white
us.
people.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm,
like
mhm.
it's targeting people of certain races and demographics, just like you said, for money and B,
fear.
fear and
Mhm.
population control
And exploitation.
exploitation and
They put them
keeping
in
people
prison. What
down.
do you do? Make them work
Yep.
Yep.
for pennies.
Mhm.
Yep. And it just keeps feeding that same system. And then people can't escape that system because now their dads are in jail, and it keeps that cycle going. And
Yeah.
it's sad.
Yeah. So I'm
It is.
really
We try to give, we try to give opportunities, for voices to be heard, because like I've never been arrested for it,
Mhm.
and I
I
hate
was
to
arrested on
be-
paper.
Mm.
on
I think if I would have been, if I was Black, I would have gone to jail for
Yeah.
sure.
Dang.
But because we were cooperative, and even though we're all Latin, we
Mhm.
were very cooperative, and we just sat there and we let them raid our RV. And they just arrested us on paper, and we had to appear in court.
Dang.
But I know for sure if my skin tone was darker, I would have been in prison.
Yeah.
Dang.
So
It-
we
Or
wanna
jail, at least for the
definitely-
night.
We just talked about that today.
Yeah. Yeah,
Literally
it's so
had that
sad.
conversation earlier today.
I mean, everyone, this society, that's why it's so divided, because of things like this keep dividing us and not bringing us together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, systems that have been put in place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, I really enjoy your podcast because in this day and age, like the standard things that have been established from back in the day, they don't work for us anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely don't.
Okay, they don't work for us anymore. All these laws, all these crazy things they're trying to uphold, and it's
Yep.
like, yo, we're in a place right now that we're progressed as a society, and we need to
Mhm.
start updating
Everything.
to catch up, right?
Everything.
Yep.
Everything. We
Everything.
talk about this all the time. Everything.
All of
in
our
the sense-
systems are broken.
I mean, everything.
I mean,
Cannabis has been villainized because it brings people together.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
It's something that unifies people. It unifies all sorts of different kinds of people.
And you know
Mhm.
what else it does? It makes people think.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
it's funny.
It's
'cause-
like the tree of knowledge. It's you're
Mhm.
biting from the tree of knowledge and you're learning everything out there, which is so funny because that's what is forbidden, right? That's the apple that you're not
Mhm.
supposed to eat.
Mhm.
And we talk about this all the time.
Well, it's funny because they try to paint potheads as these dumb idiots that have
Mhm.
no brains. But really, every time I'm with my friends smoking pot, or just Melissa and I smoking, and we're talking, our conversations are so deep and so intellectual and
Mhm.
so like crazy because it gets our brains working in a different way that I truly believe that they don't want us thinking that way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're getting
They
shit
rather
done,
have
too.
us drinking
Yeah.
because that brings
Dumbs
more like
us down.
It
aggressive,
numbs us.
Yeah.
numbs us. They
Yep.
rather have us drinking.
Yep.
Mhm.
To be dumb. Overall, it's sad.
So I want to know. So we've talked a lot about your podcast, but tell us about a little bit about the format and what it is that you guys do on the podcast. Because I'm sure you don't just get on there and get high and talk about weed.
Or is it like
No,
a Stephanie show? Like go around in a circle?
we quickly realized we needed an outline and a formula. We needed a structure because when we do smoke on the podcast,
Mhm.
and I feel like we've already gotten the hang of it, so we've gotten better. If you listen to the first few episodes, I'm sure they're not great. at
Just
all.
streams of consciousness, just us talking.
Right, but we definitely, once we started up our format and we have segments, it really worked out very well for us. We do news, we do talk about what's in the news. During the last couple of years, a lot of states have legalized in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always lots of really fun stories too that we talk about. We had one recently we talked about was actually local. A lot of things are local from Florida.
We're in
Right.
Florida, so you know the
Yeah.
fun news here.
Florida, man.
Wonderful stories, but we had one where the bride laced all the food with, had the caterer do edible food, laced the food with marijuana. A lot of the elderly
gosh.
people were not doing good. People went to the hospital.
They
Oh
didn't
my
tell their
gosh.
guests.
Called.
They did
Don't
not tell
do
their
that.
guests.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's not
That
a good
is people
idea.
that make us look really bad.
Right?
Yeah.
That's a really
Yeah.
bad idea.
Bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Cannabis is not for everybody, you know,
Couldn't
as much
be
as we
better.
say it is, but if
And-
you're going to be consuming it, you should be knowing that you're
right.
Yeah,
consuming
no
it and
drugs should be
how much.
taken without your knowledge.
Yeah.
Period.
Exactly.
Yeah, like, look, good idea. Have weed at your wedding. Bad idea. Not telling people that there's weed at your wedding. So, like, let them know. I'm sure people will appreciate it, but also the people who don't enjoy the marijuanas will probably also
Have an
appreciate
option
that
for
you
them.
told them. Yeah.
We actually smoked wedding cake on our wedding night.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
just
that's perfect.
perfect.
It was like the nicest touch to the end of the day.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
there's
so-
a lot of people incorporating into their weddings too.
Yeah.
yeah.
Cannabis themed weddings.
We would have, but
The stigma.
we didn't.
Yeah.
It's the
Because your
stigma.
families are going to be
Mhm.
there.
Yeah, your
Yeah.
families.
That-
What do your families say about
Do they
you?
know?
So-
Are you guys
No?
out to your family?
My mom, I'm very open with
Yeah.
it. I smoke in front of her
Yeah.
to her dismay.
Oh.
She doesn't enjoy it, but I'm not gonna hide it.
Mhm.
I've talked about it in front of my dad, and he was like, "What? You're smoking weed?" And I'm like, "Yep." And that was
And
the
that
end
was
of
it.
that. And my grandmother doesn't know.
Yeah,
You know, like-
grandmas don't. need to
Same.
be
My whole
involved.
family
You
knows,
know
but not
what?
abuelita, not abuelita.
Yeah, abuelita needs to. What she?
But
needs
she's
to
a
know.
cool grandma.
Yeah,
Like,
I really want to get high with my
like
grandmother.
I
to
feel
be
like she
frank.
probably would. Okay, so this might be a little bit TMI, but I came in and she actually had me download a sex novel, like a romance novel, to her phone.
Steamy.
It was, I was like, okay, grandma,
Oh.
we getting
Mhm.
steamy here. All right, she's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I have
and,
to
and
say,
then she had Melissa take sexy pictures of her for
for
her
her
boyfriend.
Oh
Ooh.
my. Okay.
She
Grandma,
was like,
Granny
"You
can
bottled
get
before.
it.
Tell me how to pose, honey." I was like,
We
"I
need a
got
pot
you. I
smoking
got you,
granny.
grandma."
Right? We need a pot smoking grandma.
I'm serious. I think
I've-
we should tell her. I think she would
I-
be cool with
I
it.
think we should.
I think she'd be cool with it.
They have her give her a
Please,
gummy.
let us know
Say,
how that
"Here, look,
goes."
Here, you want to
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
this gummy? But you got to tell her it has weed in it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
have to be upfront. You have to be
Mhm.
Like, you know
upfront.
what, Grandma? Sit down here. We're gonna watch some Netflix. Eat some grandma.
So, what if anybody out there, if it's your grandma, whoever, what would you say the best benefits of using cannabis would be for all of our listeners and for our grandmothers out there?
I mean, I feel like it does kind of, it makes you pause. Like you said, it kind of lowers the volume
Mhm.
Mhm.
of all the noise, because it's just like so much, man. So much. I'm sorry. As a parent, right before I got on here, I was just like, I've thrown the biggest fits. Okay. Like, I love my husband and I'm very for like the husbands having a life and doing stuff. I'm like, go do stuff, go do stuff. The last 2 nights, he's done stuff and I've had to do all the things for the babies. And I'm just like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Oh, I
Oh.
totally get that. I totally get that.
So I feel like smoking kind of gives you that
Not with
release,
him.
that
He's
relax.
great. But I'm saying,
That that smoking gives you that release, just like it lets you decompress, and also just puts you in a place where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Let's do it. Let's get it done. A lot of times,
Mhm.
like, I smoke before I gotta get some shorts done, or like
Mhm.
kids really want to play or something, and it's like, oh, I just feel kind of out of it. Just take a toke,
mhm.
get back in the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Reset
Couldn't have
your
said
mind.
it better myself. It's like instant patience. Like
Mhm.
Mhm.
when I find myself becoming too irritable sometimes when my son's like being too over, like I could see I'm about to be short with him. Sometimes I'm like, okay, let me just step away for a minute, go take a quick toke. I come back,
Mhm.
new mom, new me, ready to hear it all. You can keep going with that whining and I'll just listen and I'll be able to take it. No problem. I can get
Atta
down to his
mom.
level. I
Yes.
Yeah.
can
At a mom.
talk him out of it, all that. And
Yep.
and so it really helps with that. And that's what I use it for, is like patience, mental health. I have anxiety. It helps me with that, PTSD. So things like that. It's really helpful. And then it can help in so many other ways. We've met so many other people, like for the elderly, it could help them with their aches and pains, their CBD. We didn't even talk about CBD.
Yes.
People don't really, it's the same plant.
Ratio for elderly people, I would say like ratio gummies are good to start low, like 5 milligrams of THC.
Yeah. I started giving my dad a 1-to-1 ratio, CBD THC, and it's only like 10 milligrams. So it's a small little, he loves those things. He's like, it's the only thing that can really help me sleep because he's in so much pain.
Yeah.
Nice.
The CBN too is so good for sleep. You know how when, when you've had a sack for a little too long, maybe you found something in like, some of your jeans. You're like, oh man, I have some, I could smoke some, but you don't know how long it's been there. You smoke it, you get kind of sleepy because it's like, yeah, so like that's what happens. The older your weed is, it's like the CBN starts to come through, and that's what helps with sleeping. So sometimes for sleep, like for elderly people too, if like CBN, throw some CBN in the mix.
Yeah, and have them take a little sleep. That's awesome.
I gotta say that the most amazing thing I learned when we started this podcast is that I had no idea existed is the endocannabinoid system.
Yeah.
I had no idea that the reason why I like cannabis so much is because our bodies are built for, it makes their own cannabinoids. We have a system that basically helps regulate and keep us in balance, is the endocannabinoid system. And then it just clicked when I discovered that existed, and it's basically connected to every part of our body. And that's why it affects mental health, our gut, with pain, all those different things. I was like, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. I get a lot of aches and pains in my body. As a musician, I've jumped off of a lot of drum sets and speakers, and I do stages. I do these massive jumps, and I love it. I still do it to this day, even though I'm 38 and I don't care. I just jump off of stuff, but my body,
next day he's
my
like,
body pays
"Oh,
the price. I do it for the art and for the love of it, but man, does it hurt the next day. And, a couple tokes and I'm good to go,
Yeah, or some CBD cream and love it.
CBD cream. One time I threw out my back. I couldn't move and rubbed some CBD freeze cream on it, and instantly it was gone. This was after like 3 days of just agonizing pain, debilitating pain, and instantly fixed it.
Okay, so I have a really funny story. Not too long ago, I was at a Comic-Con, and I dressed up as my character. I have a comic book series called Deadly Crimson. So I was dressed up as my character, and the day before, I hurt my back really bad. And I mean, to the point where I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. How am I going to stand all day? I'm going to be in character all day. And I was just smoking weed all day long.
So we had the vape pen. So
the vape pen.
We were hitting it and like underneath the table,
like just. And I'm telling you, it was the only thing that got me through the entire day. And every single time my back would start hurting a little bit, I'm like, oh, let me pull the pin out.
Edibles are really good too for full body, like
I never know. Like that. I never know with edibles, because sometimes you can take the same exact amount of say an Oreo or whatever, and you are there's nothing. You don't feel it at all.
I agree completely. That's my problem with it too. Sometimes that's why I don't do that often, is just because it's inconsistent. Also too, like it depends on what you ate. I've had, I don't know if this has happened to you, but I've had this where I have an edible on an empty stomach. I don't eat anything for an hour. I eat a fatty meal, and in the middle of the restaurant, I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Like,
there's that edible.
Right, exactly. So it's like
the edible has entered the chat.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very hit or miss. And when it hits, it's usually way stronger than you think it was going to. Like,
or you add a little bit more. You're like, I'm not feeling it yet. It's 30 minutes. It should be going by now. You add some more, and then you're like, whoa.
And you never know when it's going to hit. That's the other problem. Like if with flower, I know I'm going to smoke it, and like a moment later, I'm going to feel it. With an edible, it's like, is it going to be 10 minutes? Is it going to be 3 hours? I don't know. I'm on this wild ride. I hope I don't have anything to do later.
I'm part of that small population of people that edibles just don't work. I've tried all sorts of different kinds of edibles, different dosages. And everybody around me is baked, and I'm like rolling a joint, or packing a bowl or something, because I'm not there. So, but I thought I was the only one, because everybody I knew, it worked for them, but then you find the cannabis community online, and I found out there are
lots of people
others. There are. And two cannabis scientists that we met online actually did a poll, because they have a large following on TikTok and Instagram, and they got about 20% saying it does not work for them.
Oh, wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing where it just straight up didn't work for certain people.
Yeah, that sucks.
It's weird.
Yeah. I wonder if it's something about the way you digest it.
Yep. It's the enzyme. They think you might not have the enzyme that, I don't know, that breaks it down the proper, I don't know. There is all sorts of different theories, but it's not 100% because it hasn't really been researched.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course it hasn't, because we're not allowed to research that sort of thing. Right. God forbid we find out about this miracle plant. So I know what your answer is going to be, but I just want you to say it out loud for all of our listeners. Would you say that cannabis makes you better parents?
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
It makes me a better person in general. Yes. Even before the kids got here, I was in the service industry, and it would make me such a good customer service person. Customers could be real assholes. That's why a lot of people have geared their decisions and careers into different directions now. But when you're working for the public, sometimes that's why weed's so good for people who have to deal with other people, which is not everybody.
Yeah.
You're able to deal with life in this world and the way that the world is right now.
Now, I just want to make one thing clear. While I was teaching, I never once smoked while I was teaching. Right. But as soon as I got home, boy, did I unwind.
Yeah.
Because when you're around 180 middle school kids in my classroom. Imagine. So like I had chorus and orchestra, so I had bigger classes, because it was the classes that all the kids wanted to be in, And when I dealing with that many kids, I'd get home and just the stress would just melt away with every puff. It was wonderful.
Yep. That's how I used to consume too. I would wait till after work, get home. That was how I would unwind. And then slowly over time, it became throughout the day, smaller dosages instead of having a whole blunt between me and my husband and a couple friends. At the end of the day, it's like maybe
you have to get used to
morning.
It.
Yeah.
True. The first time I ever smoked and went out in public, I was like, what's going on? Like it was too much energy. I couldn't handle it. And I was freaking out a little bit. And then, as I did it more regularly and, kept, like you said, I started with smaller dosages while I was out. I didn't get ripped and then went out into public. And now I can be ripped out in public and it's fine. But like, it's just one of those things where I had to build up that not tolerance, but I guess mental tolerance for what you're experiencing.
Confidence.
Right. We're pros now, guys.
Yeah.
We are pros at this now.
They'll never know what I'm like high if I'm always high.
You know what? I feel so bad. Again, I'm very spoiled. I have almost always had a job that allowed me to smoke.
That's awesome.
When I worked in the restaurant industry, right? There's people doing worse shit than fucking weed.
Oh my God.
There's people when I was working in the customer service industry, I found jobs that they were, I also used the drink. A lot of you guys know the drink to cover up the pizzas, which works, by the way. Most of the time. I don't want to people will be like, oh, it worked. The girl from Pot Smoking Mom said it worked. And it didn't. It usually does. I don't know. But, and then the last
case by case basis.
Right, exactly. And then I worked at a vitamin supplement company. It worked for you once.
It didn't work for me once.
It didn't work.
But that's because I am like, I have gag reflex when I'm drinking something I don't like. So I was having you have to
and those things
drink the whole thing like super fast. And like, it's this whole process.
And then you
and I couldn't
water
do it.
after it.
Yeah, I probably did not do it right.
You don't have the right enzymes anyway.
Right. And now when we have kids, we just have our kids pee in a cup. No,
Oh
I'm
my
kidding.
God.
I'm not suggesting that, but in an emergency, if you need your kids pee, I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But and then the last place I worked at was like a vitamin supplement company, which trust me, the way cannabis is going, I feel like the vitamin supplement industry
Oh, they're going to be first.
is gonna
For
be
sure.
is gonna be done the same way
Mhm.
because the vitamin supplement company they've been fighting with the FDA for a long time. And
Yeah.
from what I understand with cannabis, there's so many parts to the cannabis flower that will be very, very hard to kind of get a standard way of making and doing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how much the FDA will be involved, if at all, with cannabis. I don't think they will be, but it would be very much sort of like along the same lines of the vitamin supplement company. And my plug worked right next to me. So whenever I needed anything, I would have it in my drawer, in my desk, cookies, whatever I wanted. I mean, it was pretty great. It was actually pretty kind of more convenient than now, even though I can go to the store and pick it up.
I was lucky enough that the last couple jobs I've had didn't even drug test, and I had a go-to friend that I knew that did not consume cannabis, that whenever there was a drug test, I'd be like, girl, I need your pee.
It's really sad though that it has to be that way.
Right?
Yeah, why does anybody need to know my weed smoking?
Yeah, you don't have to know if someone's drinking, but you don't have to go do a pee test.
On top of that, like with they're having issues with the breathalyzer test too, because just because I have THC in my system doesn't mean I just smoked it and I'm impaired enough to not be able to drive.
Right.
So
there's so many THC products now that it could come up that way, on a drug test.
Yeah, CBD will show up.
Yeah.
Yep. You guys are in Georgia. You guys got a lot of Delta 8 out there. How is it with the Delta 8?
So the Delta 8, I actually just heard that they're actually selling some Delta 9 products, that there's a loophole now. I haven't seen it yet.
Gotta love the loophole.
Yeah, there's some kind
we
of
always
loophole
find them
where it's just low enough that it gets through, but it's straight THC, and apparently it will get you very high as well. And they're selling that in smoke shops these days. I haven't seen that personally, because I don't really mess with the Delta 8 stuff. I've got my person that gets me what I want, and it's always, the
better than
good
the
stuff.
Delta 8 stuff is like, I feel like I'm glad they kind of they found the loophole, but I don't know. I'm not on board completely because it's like a CBD. It's like unregulated. So you don't even really know I'm not saying that like there's a lot of legacy market stuff, like, people who have their own underground brands, but like there's a lot of good stuff that you'll find underground too. I don't ever want to knock underground or legacy market, because we got to remember
where we came from.
Where we came from. Yeah.
Right.
People who are growing for True Leaf and, what is a big dispensary?
Curly,
Fresco
for
Labs,
Mad
Curly.
Men. All those
people,
huge names.
I'm pretty sure most of them started illegally. So we gotta again, let all the people out of jail for the weed offenses, and give credit where credit is due. So yeah, underground legacy market is where a lot of people started. So you can't knock all of it.
Yeah.
And now, since you guys have a podcast talking all about marijuana, has this affected your relationships at all? Have you lost friendships? Has anyone like left your life because of this?
I would say it's actually positively impacted my relationships. Well, first of all, most of all my friendships, everybody already knew I was a pothead and they didn't have a problem with it. They know that's me, but like it forced me to be more open with my parents. My mom already knew, but I never talked to my dad about it. I kind of just kept that hidden. Like I knew he knew, but we just didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And a friend of my sister's slipped up to my dad and my stepmom that I have this podcast. And then all of a sudden I heard, oh no, they know about the podcast. And now I'm giving my dad gummies and they're totally understanding of me smoking. And if I'm there for the weekend and I can go to the backyard and smoke a little bit and they won't have a problem. Like I would have never thought I'd be doing those things if I wouldn't have just been honest. And they see, okay, my daughter's got, great family, she has a home, she takes care of herself, she has a good job, she's a responsible adult, and she smokes weed, so it can't be that bad,
Yeah,
right?
you've
Yeah.
already built up your reputation. It's like, what do you see about me that's like that's like
That's
offending
different,
you?
or
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm me, and it
Like,
doesn't change anything. I was a little different for me, just because my mother's older. She's more conservative.
hmm
She's so so as I regretted. I immediately regretted telling her because I was like. I told her I had a podcast, but it was about parenting. I didn't tell her about the weed part. But we started having some little success that I was kind of proud of. I wanted to share with her. And I also kind of wanted to see if I can. I feel like my mom has lots of anxiety.
hmm
And I feel like this would definitely help her.
hmm
Um, so I opened up to her and she was so not into it. She hated it, was giving me all kinds of crap about it. Let it go. Uh, brings it up again, like nastily.
Mm.
Irritates me again. We let it go. And then I get her gummies. And I'm like, yo, listen.
Chill out.
Listen. Fucking put your Netflix on and fucking take a gummy.
Eat half a gummy.
You
Half a
know,
gummy.
she seemed cool about it. But I don't know what the hell happened because then I had made a comment one day and she's whatever. It's like it's kind of like a roller coaster with it.
Mm.
So
That
it's kind
sucks.
of difficult, but at the same time, there's still so much. It's been ingrained in their head that it's bad and
Right.
it's
Yep.
terrible, and so it's gonna take a while for them to
Yeah.
get over it. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially the 60s, 70s, 80s, like 90s, that whole
There was a
era.
movement just
The
straight
Reagan,
against
the
it. Yeah.
just
dare, which they
really
still enforce in schools,
Mhm.
and that's another thing when we talk to our kids. Like, we don't want to. We're not gonna hand them a joint or smoke in their face, but like
right.
we want to
Mhm.
let them know that this is not evil. This isn't something to be hiding. You know, this is what we do for medicine. This is like for adults, but like we
Mhm.
don't want to demonize it. And but it's hard because right when they get to school, what is school gonna teach them?
Right.
Drugs are bad.
Right.
The drugs are bad, and then they toss weed into the mix with drugs. So like
Mm-hmm.
you
Then they
know
look at
we
their parents and they're like, oh, that's bad. So now what age would you feel like is appropriate to go to your kids and say, hey, this is for health purposes. I actually smoke marijuana. Have you heard of it? Is there a certain
I
age?
mean we've done it openly. They see it, they've seen us grinding it, they see the stuff we used to smoke it, they know it's around. So
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mhm.
kind of like it's already part of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that when they get older, they're gonna be a little more inquisitive. They're gonna ask more questions, and their friends are gonna start bringing it up. We actually have a friend of mine who her daughter is God, what is her daughter? She's like in middle school already, and she was being taught the dare thing, and she reached out to me going, "Hey, she was binge watching Saved by the Bell, and I don't know if you
Oh,
guys remember
Oh yeah.
that one episode where they're like, what is it that they say?
Let-
They have a saying. Let me look at it real quick because
okay.
I was looking it up because I was like, oh my God, I do remember that episode, and it was so damn cheesy.
Like
It was
drugs are
Saved by the
bad.
I
Bell.
mean,
Come
Saved by
on.
the
I was
Bell,
so
right? Saved by the Bell is
excited.
mad
The,
cheesy.
the whole thing was cheesy, but I
I
still
know.
watched it.
I
And
loved
I
it.
know.
Everybody
Yeah.
loved it.
So good.
I felt really bad. What's the nerdy kid?
Screech.
Screech.
Oh,
Screech, yeah.
I feel really bad for him because he never was able to get another job in acting. He got so typecast as Screech and,
yeah. He was a
never.
stand-up comedian. He did
Mhm.
stand-up for a while.
Yeah.
Speaking of nerdy kid actors, Jaleel White has his own strain now,
He
the
has
Purple Urkel.
Purple Urkel.
Purple
Yeah.
Oracle, yep.
That's
Well, for
awesome.
me, I think for every parent, the age it's up to them to decide really.
Mhm.
For me, like she said, we're kind of just, I never hid it. I
Mhm.
did at first. And then I was like, why am I hiding? That's going to make it seem like what I'm doing is bad and what
yeah.
I'm not
Right.
doing is right. So I'm not going to hide it anymore. So when he just got old enough where he asked, what is that? Is when I told him, oh, this is cannabis. It's a plant. People use it as medicine. I use it as medicine. So he was confused. He's like, what do you need medicine for? Are you sick? I was like,
Mhm.
no, it sometimes, mom has anxiety and it helps with my anxiety, and many different people use it for different reasons. Other parents have used the example of actually growing it together, and if they're lucky enough in their state to be able to grow, and then they actually see this is a plant coming from the ground. It could be used in different ways.
I love that model. I wish I
That's
was
so
able
cool.
to
Yeah, because then it's
grow
like a tomato
it.
plant or a basil plant or
Right.
It's in your garden.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's
There's
so
no
awesome.
hope with dope. That's a Saved by the Bell.
No, I was gonna say, what was the
Oh,
same?
yeah,
But
there's
no
no hope
hope
with-
with
There's
dope.
no hope with dope, and it's a PSA that they do. So she was like,
Oh,
"Oh, they're starting to teach there," and she's seen the "There's no hope with dope" Saved by the Bell episode. What do I do? What do I tell her?
oh. So what did you say?
Well, there's books out there. We actually have had a couple of authors on our show that have
Mhm.
written books geared towards kids and kind of explaining to them how people use it medicinally. So there's a couple
That's cool.
books out there. I sent her, a couple links to the different books, and just talking to them about how it's a plant, really, because it really is a plant. Like,
Right.
Yeah.
It's
It's a very helpful, unbelievable plant that I just wish more people would stop saying stupid things like there's no hope in dope.
yeah.
Exactly.
Cannabis can save us.
There's a lot of
different
hope
ways.
with dope.
100%.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it's not just for like medicinal, like there's so many other uses for the plant. They've found ways to make plastic out of hemp. Like there's concrete. There's so many different things that you can do with this versatile plant.
Yeah, you know that we could be building houses for a fraction of the cost if they were just built out of hemp. They made a car completely out of hemp, like that was fueled by hemp.
You guys, but if we do that, then it wouldn't move the capitalist agenda that we are upholding.
What would happen to the big oil and big pharma and all the bigs?
All the bigs.
There? Like, goodness.
The money would actually go in our pockets and we would actually have a comfortable life and everything would be.
And we would be happy.
Yes. So speaking of your podcast, where do you guys want to see your podcast grow to, and what do you want to actually see from the podcast to make a difference in our entire Say No to Drugs era that we're in?
You gonna go first or me?
Go. You've been doing really good. Go for it.
Well, when Dee and I started this, we had no idea where it was going to go.
Yeah.
And we've met so many amazing people through this journey, and they've inspired us to like want to take this so far.
Yeah.
And we've had all sorts of crazy ideas. We want to since we've met so many people all over the United States and Canada and different places, like our ultimate goal would be to take the podcast on tour and visit different states and get to meet these people in person. And then we even talked about how cool would it be if we did that and did a docu-series out of that. And like we actually interview these different women around the country, and they tell their story as to why cannabis helps them and how it helps them be a better mom. And then
you should do it.
We thought that would be very interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be so much fun. We would
100%,
love that.
100%.
And then
do it.
Dee wants to do. You want to talk about this? You want to do a script? Hopefully,
I obviously we do podcasts, but I know you're an actress and you're a musician, so we kind of we work our talents into what we can. So I do theater, sketch comedy, stand-up comedy. But I've been putting together, I have a web series that it's a series. I want to get it funded to have it to be a TV series.
Yes.
But I'm going to do it myself, period. So whether or not somebody wants to give me the money to do it big time, I'm going to end up doing it myself anyways. But it's like a series of pot smoking moms, because there's so many stories to tell, and there's so many amazing stories from different moms, not only moms who use the medicine for their children, for their sick children. Well, there's moms who have gotten out of terrible relationships, toxic relationships, and just so many wonderful stories revolving cannabis and people who have gotten out of situations. And there's just also so many funny stories about cannabis that we all have.
We've got a really good edible story. It's
Oh,
killer.
hello. I was just thinking, I have one too. Yeah.
That's our real talk episode, and that will be later.
But ultimately,
Yo,
we want to grow our audience, right? And like
Yeah.
just continue to grow our community, because I would love to be able to do this full time and not have to have my regular job 9 to 5,
Right.
and my job be, educating people on cannabis, just spreading the word of it's okay to be a parent who uses cannabis. It's okay to be comfortable talking about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Because, now even sometimes if you say something to the wrong person, it just causes a stigma with other people that's in your life. And you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't do drugs. First off, I smoke a plant. That is completely different. I'm not out, doing meth and cocaine and, all the drugs. It's actually harmful for your body. There's just so much stigma around drugs in general. So you doing a documentary series and you doing a series like that would just show not only, the stigma, but the world that, hey, you know what, this is okay. Like we should do this. These are moms.
Like, look how it's helping all these people.
Yeah.
Like, how can you here's the proof. This is how it's helping all these people. And let's not even get started on mushrooms, because that's like all coming in now. There's like a lot of information.
You want to talk about depression, helping with depression. Microdosing mushrooms is the future. So like I can't even believe where we've come now with that. It's amazing.
Oh yeah.
We actually have in a couple of weeks coming on the podcast an expert in psychedelics and psychedelic treatments and that sort of thing. So we're really excited about that episode.
Oh yes, we're gonna stay tuned and hear that.
May have to send him your way after we're done.
For sure.
Yeah. We've been trying. We have a couple of doctors we've been trying.
And cannabis and psychedelics go really well together.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just opens your brain.
Natural, coming from the earth. Back to the tree of knowledge.
Takes that ego away and just brings you down to your basis self.
Yep. You just learn who you are. And that's what's really sad. I feel like with humanity, a lot of people don't know who they are. They don't know who they are as a person. And if you don't know who you are, you cannot feel any expressions with anyone else. You can't have any relationships with anyone else if you don't know who you are.
Yeah. And talk about something that's been used for thousands of years and helped people to thrive. I mean, the whole reason we are in the evolutionary state that we are in today is because some primitive humans ate mushrooms that they found and it advanced their brains. And again, limiting us unbelievable, the people in power from having the things that could make us better people and rise up and be our best selves and have a community and have a world that was actually doing good. But no, we can't have access to these things that would really change our lives in such positive ways.
I think I'm hopeful that we will eventually.
It's definitely
seen a lot of states passing, so it is getting,
or at least starting the process of learning more about, changing the laws around it. So it's just amazing to me, because early 20s, high school me never would have thought that mushrooms and cannabis would be legal in some places here in the United States. Like I was in my early 20s and I got to go to Amsterdam. I was like, oh my God, weed and shrooms. I could go and buy it anywhere here. This place is heaven.
I in my early 20s, I was a super right-wing conservative pastor.
Wow.
I'm not that.
Did you smoke weed back then?
No.
No.
It wasn't.
No, of course not.
No, it wasn't until my early 30s that I'd smoked once when I was in college, and my ex-wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, was so upset because we were going on the ministry path together, and she made me tell her parents, and I was like shamed for it.
Oh my God, how horrible must you feel?
It was
oh my
the
God,
worst.
we gotta have you guys on our podcast.
And
you gotta tell that.
I didn't smoke again for another 14 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
He's been smoking what, about 6 years now?
Yeah, 6 years regularly.
6 years regular. And I actually lived in LA. I lived in LA for about 4 years. Of course, in LA, it's everywhere you go. It was just a normal thing. But when I first got out there, I'm from small town Georgia, and I did live in Atlanta for a little bit, and then I went straight to Los Angeles. So it was a little bit of a culture shock. And when I got out there, I was like, okay, I've smoked weed, I've smoked it occasionally, but everybody was doing it, and not peer pressure way. But, I was like, wow, this is really cool to see.
But you have met a lot of people who had smoked it and had not had any problems with it.
No problems. It was no other drugs. They didn't do any other drugs. It was just, actually, I did a music video. I smoked weed, got really high, did a music video, edited it. I mean, it just makes you focus. It makes you productive and
creative.
Yes. And I feel like that's where, we've gotten our creativity lately, is just, daily smoking every single day, because not only do we have our day jobs, but then we have to do our creative stuff. And then, we have to do this. And then we have to do daily crimson and music
the whole time.
and parents and a lot of things. So, in order for us, sometimes we'll wake up and, we'll just get in that creative mindset where we just get everything knocked out for the day. And a lot of times weed helps with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely changed up my life for 100% better. And I feel like the most me when I'm in that perfect little high space, and like I'm really flowing in my own mind. Like I'm like, oh, this is me coming out, like the real me. So
cannabis, when used responsibly, can be the key to success.
Yes.
I love that.
Elon Musk, he was smoking on Joe Rogan's show. I mean, he's the most successful man that I can think of at this moment, like
he's also the most obnoxious man at the moment, to be honest. Well, before we got on here, I read a little thing that was like, Kim Kardashian thinks, what is it? Oh, she has everything she's ever wanted out of Pete Davidson. I'm sorry, I had to mention it. I thought that was like so funny. I was like, aw. Everything you've ever wanted. That's what everything you've ever wanted.
Do you think Kim K smokes weed? I mean, she's hanging out with Pete Davidson.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, she needs to. Yeah, having to have put up with Kanye, she needs to have smoked that weed, man.
I'm sure she did.
Jeez,
she got PTSD for sure.
Oh yeah.
Well, this is our favorite part of the podcast. We love our podcast is all about celebrating success. So what would you guys like to celebrate, big or small, that you've had happen recently that you would like to celebrate with us today?
Well, we had our first event, official event. We had a very nice dinner. Was
an infused dinner party. At
the Hemp Mansion. So not only were we having dinner that was infused, but it was on a farm where they grew hemp. And
wow,
that is so cool.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Everybody loved it. Everybody had a good time. And I'm hoping that we can do small, like intimate events like that so that we can all get to know each other a little more, because, I love social media, and I feel like we've all met a lot of people and made a lot of really wonderful connections through social media. But now that we're able to meet in person, it's like a different level of connection that we get to do with other people. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
That event was definitely turned out to be a success. Like we talked about doing that since the beginning of the podcast. We're like, we would love to have, if we have an event, we would like it to be an intimate event, maybe a dinner party or something. And we manifested it and we made it happen.
Yes.
We got to meet some amazing people that we created these relationships with online, in person. And we just hope to do a lot more of that.
Now, if you don't mind me asking, you don't have to say the exact city or anything like that, but what area of Florida are you in? Panhandle, northern Florida,
we're in South Florida.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in South Florida.
Okay.
Southeast. I don't mind saying where I live. I'm not going to give you my address.
Right.
There's millions of people that live here. But I live
tonight.
I live in the city of Hialeah. Most people from Hialeah are like very proud. So
Two H's. She's in Hialeah. I'm in Hollywood.
yeah, Hollywood's.
Ooh.
I mean, Hialeah's in Miami, basically. It's just
Okay.
like a suburb.
Getting high in Hialeah.
Yep. And that's where we record most of our podcasts in Hialeah.
We've been getting
Nice.
high in Hialeah
Oh my-
for a very long time now.
So your event, you did it in Florida?
Yeah, we did. We did it in
Yes.
Tampa. We did it up north. We
Okay.
we have a lot of friends up more like Central Florida, I guess we could say. St. Pete, Sarasota, Tampa. We got a lot of peeps out there. So
Nice.
we do a lot of events out there because we know that there's a lot of people that are willing to like meet in that area. We look forward to trying to put together something locally. It's a lot of work. I mean, I'm on money. You know what I mean? Like just like podcasting, right? There's a point in time where you're like, you do so much. It's so much more than you had initially anticipated.
Right.
And it's totally worth it, 100%. But like, you know, we use money to pay bills.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's time, time and effort. And we do the podcast because we want to make a difference. And we want people to see that we're working really, really hard to make a difference. And, sometimes that is a thank you in the form of money.
Yeah.
Right. Like, hey, join up for the Reimagine Podcast Patreon or the Pot Smoking Moms Patreon. We would definitely appreciate that from you guys. It's
Like
definitely
you guys
something
said, you
we could use.
just started video. Like that's something we only offer to our patrons right now because we are just now getting
just
into the
starting.
video realm because that's a whole other ball
It's a
game
whole
that you're
other-
getting into.
Yeah.
So right now, only our patrons get to see our beautiful faces as we
That's
have our
not a bad idea,
podcast.
actually.
But hey, you know what though? I did want to have a message for you on your podcast. I think it works well for you guys. I feel like cannabis is not going anywhere. It's a huge industry that's only going to get bigger. And I feel like whatever you do right now, if you love weed and you feel like you can incorporate that into the cannabis industry, like we want to empower you to do it because there's so many different things you could do. Like, right? Like if you do yoga, you could do weed yoga. You could do
We do that all the time.
Like
It's
if you
so
do
much
painting,
better.
So good.
you guys, right? You guys are talking about painting and how they have the,
Mhm.
they have the wine and paint. We have the paint and puff. Like,
Yeah.
you could do that. You could do all kinds of sort of.
Are you an
wonderful
accountant?
things.
You can help people figure out how they can
Set up their cannabis
Afford
business.
more weed.
afford more weed, set up their cannabis business,
Right.
get right off.
There's so many different angles that you can do. And
I
like,
came across today on TikTok, and I'm gonna see if they'll come on the show. A hairstylist, the cannabis friendly salon,
Nice.
so that you don't have to feel weird going there reeking of weed already. Or
Right.
if you want to medicate
Hook
a
it
little
up with
bit
your
before you get your
hairdresser.
hair washed, or while you're waiting for your turn, you can. And I was like, oh my God, that's genius. I get so much anxiety going to the salon. Like I don't want to be there all day.
No, what
But if I can smoke weed while I'm there, I'll be
if they-
good.
It'd be nice if
That's
they have a
great.
dab bar. You know what I
Mhm.
mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many things that could be like more employment for people. Like
Yeah.
this could open up all these new jobs. We're talking about people being unemployed and don't want to go back to work and all this stuff. Well, because the jobs out there are stupid and they're not.
Yeah,
like,
they pay.
no.
Well, they definitely
They're
pay
not very
stupid.
rewarding.
Yeah.
Right. And they're not
Right.
rewarding. They pay stupid. And you know what? Now is a better time than ever to like try to figure out what your niche is in terms of like
Yep.
career wise. I saw this video. I think it's a blog. It's about people from New York. And this guy walked up to this really interesting, eccentric looking person and started interviewing them. And he had like grills, like he was a metal worker. He did like, he worked metal and he turned it into a business. He would make rings and he made grills for people. And he would go to people's houses to set their gold or metal teeth or whatever. And here's this guy who does that. This guy, like, it's like you can do anything that you really love, that you're really good at, and make it your career.
And everyone really should. We were thinking about that. You go to the grocery store nowadays and everything is so expensive. You go and buy bread, like cheap bread is like $3, and it used to be like $1 or something.
Yeah,
and
it's so ridiculous.
it's just everything. And of course we eat very clean. We eat very more organic, and more on the healthier side of everything. And so we do a program called Butcher Box. And I've been doing it for many, many years. And it's, no hormones, grass-fed meat. And the meat has been beautiful. And I am really sorry, Butcher Box, but I'm about to blast you. But the meat used to be beautiful, and it was, no fat. You could tell these were happy cows. And now it's just, the meat is just getting fattier and fattier and fattier. And, I want a happy cow. Like, I want this cow to have a happy life up until, it feeds us, because, and nothing against vegetarians, but we do eat meat. And it's just like, we were looking, and I was like, we need to go to a farm. We need to say, okay, this cow right here looks very happy. That's going to be our cow. We're going to put it in the freezer.
Every cow has their own Facebook profile.
You can just pick out your cow.
This cow's a little precarious.
Don't name it. But everything local, right? Like, so if you're really great cook at something, maybe you trade dishes, maybe you trade meals. So that way you can cook something and you can give it to somebody else, and you can get something that's completely different than what you make. And it will feed your family. And they're like, oh, this is totally different. And I think that that's where everything needs to go back to, is community. And, back to what can we
barter
get from
systems.
each other?
And
what can we get from each other and help each other?
Because society has evolved in such a way that we're the most separate that we've ever been. And yet they try to convince us that we're the most connected because of all this social media, but that just keeps us more separated. So things like weed brings us together. Like
things like cows bring us together.
I mean, when's the last time you ever heard of somebody beating their family when they were high on weed? I mean, I've never heard that ever.
I've heard before. I have been
if they
wanting
weren't
to beat
on
my
their
family
weed
up before I smoked my weed.
Or if they're on alcohol.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Willie Nelson said it kept the rage away. So it's true. It keeps the rage away.
Right.
Well, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you, where they can connect with you? Definitely everybody needs to listen to your podcast for sure. I'm going to start listening immediately.
So potsmokingmoms.com is a website. We have all of our social media. We're pretty much Pot Smoking Moms is the handle on most all social media, except for the TikTok. We're down to Pot Smoking Mom because the plural was, taken down.
Banned.
Community guideline. Too many broken community guidelines.
We had such a following, and it was going
like
great.
Almost 100, and we had like 160,000 followers.
Good Lord.
I mean, at the height of the pandemic, we were doing really, really good on TikTok and getting a lot of people over. But cannabis again, social media is not
shadow banned.
Cannabis, they shadow ban you. You're not they're not showing you to new accounts. It's got its good and its bad, right? Because people are like, oh yeah, weed, everybody loves weed. I'm gonna click follow whatever, but they suppress the content because it's not ideal. They don't want to be
And that's why word of mouth is so important. So for all of you listeners, word of mouth, because a lot of times social media, like they say, will ban you, and you won't get the recognition or anything,
or you
like
just
that.
Won't see the post.
Oh, they started. Did you see? They changed the feed.
The algorithms are just so messed up.
Suppresses
they changed the feed to well, now if you go on Instagram, they changed the feed to where it suggests a lot of accounts because they're trying to be like TikTok. So then it's like shit. We're competing with people who you don't even follow.
Yeah.
For you to see our content, I had to dismiss snooze suggested. Yeah, because you want to give your people love too. You're a lot of times on social media, you guys, it's a give and take. You got to be interested in your audience for your audience to be interested in you. If you don't know what they're into, how do you know what kind of show to put on for them?
Right. Exactly.
So it's the social media is definitely is a tool for us, but it doesn't like cannabis.
Yeah,
it's definitely allowed our audience, our podcast audience, to really interact with us. Is how we've gotten to know them is through Instagram and through TikTok, mostly Instagram, because there it's easier to connect. And then we've started doing our monthly Zoom sessions with our patrons, and we sesh together online. And we've even gone on vacation with our patrons. We went to Disney World.
Yeah, it's so funny because we met you. I met you guys on one of the clubs from Patreon.
The clubs.
Yeah, so we're in a podcasting support group together.
Yeah, and we met each other, but actually we didn't see you guys. Your video
it was my first time. I didn't want to I felt kind of, I'm always very hitting in the background, just want to see what the vibes are before I ever, come out and talk. But it was interesting because there was a girl on there who was talking about how it has to be very limited with her patrons, and she doesn't really, get too friendly with them because I don't know, she was giving a whole thing as to why she doesn't really connect too much. And
setting boundaries.
Setting boundaries, right. And here we are we're going on vacation with our patrons. Yeah. The other guy that was in our group was like, sometimes I have sex with my patrons. And we're like,
that guy was way too much.
Right.
Yeah. We were
boy.
We were like, all right, with that, we're out. Bye.
And I was like, wow, that's boundaries. Oh my God, no boundaries. But hey, if it works for him, his podcast is about sex. So it makes sense. We won't be having sex with our patrons anytime soon.
No. We'll smoke weed with our patrons. We'll smoke weed with our patrons. Right. That's for sure.
Right.
That's great.
Good to know where you stand. There's a hard line.
We got to say no.
But we do weekly episodes. They come out every Wednesday. We're currently on a break, but our podcast will be coming back in July. Oh my God, what was the date again? We have it scheduled.
I love it. Weed Wednesday.
Yeah, that's why we chose Wednesday.
Nice.
Wednesday's good.
July 13th is our
July 13th.
tentative return date.
So if you've never listened to Pot Smoking Moms, you've got a couple weeks to catch up on all of their episodes before they start their new ones, July 13th.
90 episodes.
Nice. That's awesome.
That's
technically 89 because D accidentally skipped a number, but we're not changing all the numbers, so we're at 90.
There's a ghost,
congratulations.
There's a ghost episode. Thank you. How many episodes have you guys in the bag?
So we're 8 months in right now. We're in season 2.
We're weekly. So we're at episode
68,
11 or so. Wait, what is this one? 9, 10, 11, somewhere in there. So that's of season 2, and we had 26 in the first. So somewhere around 35-ish, somewhere in there.
Nice.
Yeah. It's funny because a podcast starts and a lot of times you don't know exactly what goes into it until you start the podcast and you're like, oh, whoa, I got to do this and got to do this. But for us, we love it because as a couple, we were trying to decide what we wanted to do. We wanted to do something creative. Was it YouTube? Was it making videos? What were we going to do? And then actually Facebook came up to us and actually asked me to beta test their audio rooms. And I was like, sure, that sounds actually really fun. So we started doing a mini audio room podcast, but it was live on Facebook every Thursday. And we loved it so much that we kept going. We haven't had any breaks. We've launched every single Thursday now for 8 months.
Wow.
Congratulations. That's
been a lot of fun.
And we're in 23 countries now worldwide, which
so.
Growing our audience, just like you guys are.
Yeah, that's always fun, right? When you're like, wow, we're on the charts in Australia. What?
Right?
It's crazy. We're one of the top self-help motivational podcasts in Canada.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
We love Canada, man.
Yes, we do too.
It's totally legal there.
Yeah. Totally.
Canada's like, what are you guys doing down there?
Yeah, listen, I got people rubbing it in my face over there, showing me they can get hash. They buy all different types of hash on one of those on an order form and shit. What?
That's
one day.
Great.
All right. So if you had to give some advice to a mom out there who is like, I'm stressed out all the time and I've thought about smoking weed, but I just can't get past the stigma, what would you say to that mom?
I would say to that mom, what?
Go low and slow.
Go low and slow.
Ooh.
Take
where there's a
low dosage, little bits amounts.
And there's a whole bunch of us out here waiting for you to come join us.
With no judgment.
A whole community.
No judgment.
Yeah, no judgment. And like we try to provide resources where they're available. We talk to people. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence. There's not a lot of research per se because of course it's still federally illegal, but there's a lot of anecdotal evidence. And if we don't have it, or if we haven't had anything, we haven't talked about it in our podcast, we'll definitely find some resources for any questions that any mom that might want to see what it's about.
Yeah.
And for a mom that's somewhere that's not legal, that would be difficult unless you know somebody that smokes weed that you could be like, hey, can you bring some over tonight and let's try it? I'll try it or whatever. But if you're lucky enough to live in a legal state, just, go to the dispensary and ask some questions, do your own research online.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be a stigma around it until, like we said, it's legal. And even for a while after that.
Yeah.
And just like anything in this life, there's always going to be people criticizing anything. So it's just a matter of if it works for you and it makes your life better and it helps you, we don't got time to be caring what other people think.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That shit.
Exactly.
I'll just say this for the moms, your first couple tries, just maybe after the kids go to bed.
Build that tolerance.
Get used to it.
Yeah, you don't
get to know it first.
That's a pro tip.
You don't want to take a gummy first thing in the morning with a busy day with the kids.
Definitely
like,
not.
Here, let's go.
It depends what kind of morning you want to have.
That's great. Well, you guys have been amazing.
Yes.
We love you guys. We love what you're doing, and we love that you are changing it and you're using your voice to change it.
Yes. Thank you so much for all that you're doing for the community, and hopefully
for the world, for humanity.
Yeah, it'll spread like so much more.
Yeah, back at you guys. You guys are giving people a different option, different point of view. And a different perspective. Yeah, it's so needed right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have to keep going, and we'll come on your podcast, and we are so thankful that you came on ours.
Yes. And,
thank you for having us.
We'll tell our gummy story on your podcast. So if our listeners want to hear that, then you will have to tune in when we are on the Pot Smoking Moms podcast.
We'll trade gummy stories.
Little crossover here. Crossover collabs.
Love it.
Well, thanks so much, ladies, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night.
That was just so much fun.
Oh my gosh. They cracked me up the entire time.
Yeah, those ladies were great. I love their energy and their openness and their honesty.
And I love what they're doing, how they're changing the stigma behind marijuana.
Yeah. And for our listeners, if you're offended by this, we're really sorry, but it's something that is a very positive thing. And like they said, there's a lot of anecdotal evidence for the positiveness behind it. And I would ask that you would approach it with an open mind and an open heart to learn, and not just to take everything that's been shoved down your throat by the people in charge that don't want you to be your best self, and really do your own research and find out what it's really all about.
Yeah. And reach out to a community, reach out to pot smoking moms, listen to their podcast.
Yes.
There's so many podcasts out there that you can be informed the right way. So just reach out, form a community, reach out to us, ask us any questions, and we would just love to talk to you.
Yeah. Check out their Patreon. Like they said, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/creativeglobal. We're trying to do some extra stuff in there for you guys and just make it the best that we can. So come on over. It's less than a cup of coffee a month. So $5 a month, you could get all the bonus content. You got to support the things that you enjoy. So if you enjoy this podcast and want to keep it going and really help us make a difference in this world, give up a cup of coffee for a month. One cup of coffee in a month.
Yeah.
And kick that our way for some great content coming your way.
And also tell your friends. Word of mouth is such a big part of podcasting. And we would love for you to tell your friends if you love what you hear.
Yeah. So Thanks for listening, and we hope that you all are having amazing success, and we'll see you next time.
We love you guys.
And with that, this is a Creative Global Podcasting production.
Did you get motivated? Do you feel inspired?
Don't worry about keeping up with the Joneses anymore, and don't forget to celebrate your successes every single day. Thank you for taking this journey with us.
Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Reimagine Success Pod. Email us at reimaginesuccesspod@gmail.com and let us know what your successes are. Head over to patreon.com/creativeglobal for bonus and behind-the-scenes content.
New episodes every Thursday at reimaginesuccesspod.com or your favorite podcast streaming platform.
So let's change our mindsets and reimagine success.